is that right now you do have evidence of alt, right, and left parties being at that riot. And both are arrested and charged. Yeah? Is that fair?
What alt-left people were in DC rioting?
So the one, like, for instance, Jake Sullivan, he's just, is he honestly press, or was he part of a breaking window? Was nothing in trouble? I mean, he broke windows and they have on video breaking in and entering a part of the Capitol.
Jake Sullivan, American government official. The National Security Advisor for President Joe Biden.
Not that dude. Not that dude. Not that guy. Is it Jake Sullivan, or is it, what's that dude's name? Oh, what is his name? What is his name? What is his name? I thought it was Jake Sullivan.
So I know there was originally Matt Gaetz came out on the floor and claimed that there was facial recognition software showing that people from Philly Antifa were in the crowd, but because they came from their website. But then you look at the photos and
John Sullivan. I'm sorry, the guy's name is John Sullivan.
Okay, John Sullivan. Man who shot video of fatal Capitol shooting is arrested, remains focused of political storm. Anti-Trump Capitol infiltrator John Sullivan locked up. So he was an infiltrator?
He was dressed up with a MAGA hat and acted like he was part of the movement, and filmed himself with a CNN person, and they filmed it going in, and he was actually breaking windows, and he was inciting violence and telling people, let's go. He was part of the lead-in.
And what was this? What is this proof of?
This dude's part of BLM. He's been on news.
He's part of the BLM, like the ILC, or do you mean the broader? What do you mean?
I do the fuck I know. That's what the narrative the news is putting out. You're reading what I'm reading. You can see it. He was
joined the rampage to the Capitol, and some studies passed evidence of liberal involvement in the siege. He's organized pro-alien on both sides. Alienating activists on both ends of political. He drove Uber, activists on a center conservative campaign to blame liberal groups for the Capitol siege. The video also landed him in jail. Federal authorities striking down. So repeatedly exhorted rioters to enter the building, overwhelm police, and see convinced the public to walk away. Later claimed he was there to document and participate in the event. His attention to right-wing leaders, including President Trump's lawyer, Rudolph Giuliani, who said it showed that Antifa was the true organizer of the attack. He was a BLM, fascist, Antifa supporter. None of these words make sense together. But Sullivan is hardly a darling of the left. He began organizing in Utah last year, and at one of the protests shot a motorist, a racial justice organizer who founded Black Lives. He came in to chase clout and get those media headlines. Now it's not any place to tell anyone how to be an activist, but the fact is that Black Lives Matter Utah has never had one arrest in 7 years. We've never caused any violence, any destruction of property, and this man comes in here and taints our reputation in a day. So this doesn't seem to be some dude who's like a darling of the left. This seems to be somebody that nobody really likes.
But I mean, it's still somebody on the left. It's still somebody on the left.
How does this matter at all?
It matters because when you call people that are on we have extremism. We have extremists on both sides of this argument, man.
This is so bizarre to me, actually.
Why?
Because let's say this person is actually even a darling of the left, right? Let's pretend for a moment that he is. That is one person in a crowd of hundreds of people.
Okay.
Charging into a building, smashing it up.
What's it take to light a fire? What's it take to light a fire?
Do you think he was the one who did it? You think he planned it?
Do
you have any evidence of this?
But you're telling me to accept the fact that one white nationalist decided to start the whole white supremacy movement in attacking the Capitol, right? It's the same argument for both, man.
I didn't say one person. I never said one person did anything. I said that it was a crowd pumped up by conspiracy theories. While there were some people who kind of planned some stuff, that is true. There's video footage of that. But that wasn't lefties. Those, from the footage I saw, they were Trump supporters. It seemed to be a crowd in a rage about Trump losing the election, stormed the building saying it was their house, smashed the windows. Some people planted bombs around the city. The media was insulted. I was there for that. I saw exactly when that happened. Because I was part of the people they were fucking with when they did that.
Right.
And the vast crowd of people were Trump supporters. One person falsely wearing a MAGA hat doesn't prove anything. The only thing you're proving here is that there were lefties there. Duh, I was there. You know I was there.
Were you wearing a MAGA hat?
No, I was wearing Biden gear. And that's why I was called an F slur. That's why I was starting with execution. That's why people spit on me, right?
Bro, look, you bring me on here to ask me questions. You think I'm sitting here advocating for violence. And my first fucking take is there a way to change our government without fucking violence? I do not advocate for violence from anyone.
But then you said you don't think there is.
But I don't see it. Because I'm asking. This is honestly a question to the community. If you guys are so politically engaged, and you, for one, are definitely politically engaged, is there a way to get the change you want without violence?
Yeah, I do think so.
So why did we have riots for the past 4 years? Why couldn't we have done these peacefully? I mean, I'm
because this is the natural evolution of unattended issues. Always, this always happens. It's unavoidable.
I mean,
okay. Let's look at any other country in the world, right?
All right. Okay, brother.
Lebanon, country economy tanks. Nations leaders are corrupt. Nations, this and that, right? It's complete garbage. People riot and bust shit up. Anybody looking from the outside knows that the solution of that isn't to say, hey, everybody, rioting's very mean. That's not good. It's to say, we got to deal with the issue that's causing the rioting in the first place. Because it's the only way you're really going to stop it. Can you ever think of a time in history where we said, man, rioting's very mean. It's very nasty. Let's stop it. And that dealt with the issue? Or was it dealing with the issue that was the source of the civil unrest?
I think that the leaning towards one side of being responsible for all the damage is not the solution.
For the Capitol, this specific instance, it is undeniable that it is basically all one side. Yes.
Not when you have bad faith actors instigating it as well.
This guy, as far as I'm aware, he's a clout chaser. It would be like,
sure,
it's like finding out Jake Paul was there. Does that prove anything like about? Well, actually, it was YouTube influencers that were involved. So can we really say it was the Trump people that was at fault here? That'd be ridiculous. There's no evidence this guy was involved in any planning. There's no evidence that this was a widespread phenomenon. There's no evidence of that whatsoever. There is evidence that there was a lot of Trump supporters there, that the vast majority, basically all of them, who rushed in and went into the Capitol were either Trump supporters or reporters covering the event. And we're going to pretend that there's both sides have some fault here.
Is that the first time a protest has been done in a Capitol building?
No.
Shut something down.
This is the first time that something like this has happened in the Capitol building since, I don't know,
that's not
1812. Well, no, it is not the first time a protest has been done.
The Capitol building has been attacked before. The Capitol building has been attacked before. 98.
The only one I can think of is 1812.
98. Two Capitol police were shot at the Capitol, in the Capitol building.
Okay.
Could go back further. No,
that was bad,
again,
right?
No violence is good, brother.
So
I'm going to say it again.
So what are we saying
violence
here?
Is good.
So what's the point?
But what we're saying here is that because what you're saying is these people that were at a rally and actually showed up at the Capitol, even if they didn't do any damage, but they walked in that building, are terrorists or insurrectionists. Is that what you're saying?
I am saying that anybody who walked into that building was breaking the law and part of an insurrection at that point, probably, yes.
So the term insurrection literally means what to you?
It's either okay, sedition or insurrection. If your goal is to overthrow a democratically elected government, I would say that's probably an insurrection, or at least sedition.
And them, okay, so now you have to prove the intent was for them to overthrow the government.
They went in there chanting, "Hang Mike Pence" with handcuffs while bombs were planted around the city and beat up the press.
That has been walked back. That you know for a fact that all of that's been walked back by the FBI as well. They are calling back on that one.
Wait. So you're telling me nobody went in there with zip tie handcuffs?
No, I'm not saying that.
Okay.
I'm not saying that. I said that they
walked
back the motive. They walked back the motive, they said.
Okay,
The
if I
FBI is not-
ran into your home chanting "I'm gonna hang your wife," do you not see the motive there is pretty clear? Like if I walk into a Capitol building chanting "Hang the vice president," the motive there is pretty fucking clear for those individuals. Definitely when a noose is literally outside the building. The FBI, what they walked back was not walking back that there was people in the crowd who didn't want to do violence upon legislatures. That was not what the FBI walked back.
They did. They walked. Okay, show me where there's going to be somebody prosecuted right now for trying to kill or assassinate Nancy Pelosi or whatever. Show me one of the charges that show that.
There's not going to be enough evidence for something like that because you're going to.
Then why are you claiming it?
Because RedNeq, if I yelled at you, I am going to kill RedNeq. I am on this mission to kill RedNeq. I want to hang RedNeq, and I'm chanting that while I walk into your place of work, then get arrested later. Do you think it's really a far stretch for you to say, I think that person might want to do something to me?
If you had all that evidence, sure. But did they actually occur?
We do have evidence of them chanting "Hang my pants." Yes,
that
is video footage of it.
Okay. Again, you just acknowledged though that there's not enough evidence to convict anyone, so it pisses you off that they were doing it.
Well, here's something I know 100% we can convict somebody. Here's a guy planting pipe bombs
for sure. That motherfucker right there, damn sure. No argument here, Dylan. That motherfucker right there needs to go to federal prison for life.
The thing is,
is that okay?
Federal prison for life? Yeah, I agree with that. The thing is, for me, my standards in the court standards for trying somebody guilty for attempting to murder a legislator is different. If I see somebody walking into a building while people are around them with zip tie handcuffs before they vandalize stuff, while chanting.
Yeah, I understand.
While chanting, well, okay, if they didn't want to kill somebody, they wanted to take somebody hostage. What's the point of bringing in handcuffs if not to take somebody to do a citizen's arrest, quote unquote, right? But if I'm chanting "hang a certain politician" while I go into this building and then proceed to smash up stuff while the press is assaulted outside and I'm next to people with zip tie handcuffs and bombs are planted around the city, do you not think there might be some intent by some of those people who are chanting "hang the vice president" to do that to the vice president when there's a noose outside the building?
Brother, and I know it sounds very hyperbolic and beautiful that you're saying it, and I know that people were saying it.
What I just said was the truth, though.
But you also said the truth that there's nobody that's going to be convicted of it. There's not enough evidence for it because no action occurred. Come on, man.
Yeah, but then if I am not found guilty of attempting to murder you because I didn't pick up a gun and shoot at you.
Attempting and wording, brother, are two different things, Dylan. The words of one person comparative to the action of another it's completely different, man.
Do you not? Okay. Do you not? This seems. I think you're splitting so many hairs here. So if you're saying me that if I can't get a court of law to prosecute those individuals,
how much? Look, don't you could think about whatever you can say whatever you want about anything, but Dylan, you got to be fair here. I have never come at you with bad faith, and I've never sat here and bullshitted with you. I've always talked to you directly and fairly. I am not splitting hairs. I'm trying to navigate where
you're being bad faith. I think you're doing it unintentionally. But
Dylan, I don't agree with violence, but I also don't believe that these people that went up to a rally and then were told, there's video where police officers are opening the fucking fence and telling them, hey, this is your house now, come on in. Y'all walk in, and inviting people the fuck in the building. You have to take mob mentality and understand. We have people rioting over fucking basketball games and football games. Shit can blow out of proportion and go real crazy real quick, even in good celebrations.
Yes, and so you know what?
I'm talking about.
Fine, continue.
No, it's your show, brother. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
The difference is, even if it is mob mentality, you still walk into a building chanting "hang the vice president" into a building you're not supposed to be in, while you had to bust in windows to get in there and you had to fight police lines to get in there. I think looking at those things together, definitely when bombs are still being planted around the city and the press is being assaulted, I can do the mental math to think, I think a few people in that crowd were, if they would have saw Mike Pence or saw Nancy Pelosi, they'd have killed him, or at least took him captive. Now, can I prove that? Can I prove that in a court of law? No. All right,
let me back up. Let's Maxine Waters. I never heard you bitch about what she said about push up on them, push them back, get in their faces, brother. I mean, that's violence.
Well, you know what?
That's incitement.
You know what?
That's incitement.
You know what? Harassment is bad. I do not like harassment, but it's not to say if Maxine Waters would have gotten on a stage and said, "Hang the vice president," I think I would have felt
but
pretty.
I'm
I would have been
asking you,
more
where are
outraged
those
about
people that said it, and why do we not have them behind bars already? That's what I'm asking you.
Because it was a huge
because
crowd.
You can't.
It was a huge. Yeah, you can't. Yeah, you can't arrest a crowd for all chanting "hang somebody"
You can't
with the
arrest,
noose in the background.
But even if they go back and listen to video evidence, are they going to be able to arrest them and do that?
Just because you can't arrest somebody doesn't mean somebody didn't do something bad.
Okay. But you're literally using speech now as the variable to hinge somebody's life on.
Yes. Yes, 100%.
Wow.
Okay, RedNeq, if I got on a stage and said, I committed this crime, I want to commit this crime. I want to commit this crime against this woman, and which will end in her death. Do you think that's not permissible in the court of law? Do you think that's permissible in me trying to figure out if that person's a good person or not?
It's the whole Minority Report argument at that point, because the crime hasn't been committed, but your assumption is that it's going to be committed. Right?
If I am
public, where we're at?
Well, no, this is 100%. If I'm publicly stating my intent to commit a crime or do something, while I'm going into direction of how to commit that crime and do something, while other crimes which could lead up to me doing that, like busting into a building through its windows and assaulting the press that is covering it, and stealing stuff from offices which are classified, while federal officials and government officials have to flee the building. I think I can look at that and kind of do the mental math to think, I think they didn't have nice intentions going in there. I don't think they were going in there to have a nice debate with Nancy Pelosi. What do you think would have happened if that crowd actually found Nancy Pelosi in her office instead of just some cards in her open emails?
You just have to assume, right? Because we don't know. Nobody knows.
You think it would have been a friendly debate, like a conversation?
We don't know. We don't know, right? Your perception of these people, because you were physically there. And you heard and saw and felt the energy. I wasn't. Yeah. And all I'm saying is violence. I do not advocate for it at all.
So
I want a way around it. What are you upset with that kind of mentality? What is wrong with saying that?
No, there's nothing wrong with you saying that, RedNeq. I don't know how this led to this and saying, well, it was stuff on both sides. It was you saying that, and then you followed it up with, it seems like both sides caused what happened to DC, when that wasn't the case.
No, I did not say both sides caused. I said both sides were there. We got to stop this. We got to stop this one side, this side. That's the fucking problem, Dylan.
That feels disingenuous, though, because you could have said both sides were there and just pointed to me as an example.
I'm not going to... All right, again, look. I've asked honest questions in that tweet specifically. In that tweet specifically, I want our government reset. I do. I want to figure out a way to get Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, goddamn Mitch McConnell, and every other fucking bureaucrat that's been in there for 20, 30, 40 fucking years out. Because honestly, I don't see any other way. I don't. And I need to understand how that's going to work, especially when our voting laws are not followed. And that's what led up to the 6th. That's it. And the riot on the 6th, while I do not agree with the violence, it happened. And on another post I posted, I talked about how do you change your government when you feel your government's not there for you. And I even remember on one of these panels I was on, I heard the left yelling at me about BLM has a right to tear down shit, especially public or especially public buildings, federal buildings, because they're taking the grievance directly with the government. And I'm like, okay, if that's the policy we're going to do, then what makes the Capitol building any different? If that's the argument we're going to play off of. And then they're insurrections because they were trying to overthrow the government. Do you really think 200 fucking individuals with none of them, only how many people had guns? What did they count? There were like 20 people that carried guns with them, long guns that showed up in pictures. Do you really think they were going to fucking overthrow our government with that many people?
I never said they were smart.
If the agenda was to overthrow the government, that was not. Come on,
the thing is, these things never go the way of, well, we all have this very clean plan of revolution. That's this idea of this planned, elaborate revolution, or how revolutions or how overthrows occur. That's not how it happens. It's usually messy, dirty, disgusting. It doesn't go as planned. And that is completely separate to the fact that if you could go somewhere and your intentions can immediately change, you could go to a rally and be like, oh shit, I didn't expect us to get through the police line and bust into the building. Well, I got these trusty handcuffs ready. Let's get looking.
Again, you're bringing up one person, maybe two that had that in that picture. Fine. Arrest them. They apparently broke something. They must have they had to have break some law, right? They had to have. You say there's intent. So I'm asking, let's keep a track on those. Let's mark those guys down and let's see where they end up. And let's see if the government really does have something on them. Because I do want to know where that line is. It still doesn't negate my question. It still doesn't negate my wants. In my whole almost 50 years in February, I have not seen, and I've been paying attention to politics probably since my 20s, mid-20s, and started paying attention to my vote. I have not seen our government at all from both sides do what they say they're going to do for us. And all I've seen is it getting farther and farther apart and more of us divided. And then I see one side get accepted to do one thing and then the other side get accused of another. And it's all bullshit. This game is bullshit. It really is. And I want to know, how do we make a revolution happen without violence? That's what I want to reset. I do want this government reset.
Okay, so you don't want a civil war. You're not preparing for a civil war. You're not doing anything of that sort.
If a civil war is what it takes, then let's just get it done. But I would like to do it without violence.
That's the stuff that if somebody,
I'm asking the fucking question you asked. I answered. I said, if a civil war is what it takes.
Yeah, but that's the stuff that scares me, because you've put out tweets like that before, and it sounds extremely inflammatory. Well, the thing is, if somebody asked me, Dylan, do you want a civil war? No, I don't. I would like to avoid that at all costs. That's it. Your thing is, well, if it's what it takes.
But I want the government to fucking change. And it's not changing with the vote. The voting, look, you're even upset. You guys were upset for 4 years. You've been fucking pissed off because your vote didn't get your way. And then even the things that you have voted on, you are conscious enough about the political realisms because you've helped serve in the capacities of getting people elected and been around it. But the normal people don't get it. I mean, they don't understand that it takes time and you should take your wins and your losses. I get your argument you made with me about Warnock, and that's why I quit fucking with you. I never said another word about it. I left it alone because you said you take what you get from them and you let the other stuff go because everybody brings baggage. There's always a good and there's always a bad with everybody we put in office. It just feels like to me that everybody that's in office, whether they're right or left, don't fucking care. They seem to do this to keep themselves in place. And it's just placating. And I'm with you guys. I'm with you with change. I want greater change. I want bigger changes. And I want it now. I want to see it in my lifetime. That's what I thought I joined online panels for. That's what I thought expressing my opinions was about, was us all making a chance to get somewhere.
You know that guy who was on the desk, who put his feet up on Nancy Pelosi's desk, that was arrested?
Okay. What about him?
He was charged with making interstate threats to Speaker Nancy Pelosi, with the possession of unregistered firearms and carrying a pistol without a license, and it is alleged that his vehicle contained 11 explosive devices known as Molotov cocktails and firearms.
So he went full tilt.
Went pretty tilt, yeah.
Where's he from? Where'd they get him?
Arkansas. Sorry.
Arkansas?
Yeah, Arkansas.
What part? Does it say a town, city? Where'd he come from?
It doesn't say specifically, it just says Arkansas. Wait. He says he was arrested in Bentonville, so I would assume.
Oh my God, that's a Walmart guy. Bentonville's where Walmart's headquartered. I used to live there.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, Bentonville is that's so fun fact story. Did work for Walmart in that town. I lived there from 96 to 98, and they didn't allow any rated R movies back then.
He's from
outside of town.
He's from Gravette. Or it says Gravette, but he was arrested in Bentonville. Yeah, Gravette or whatever. I'm not from the area.
Yeah, Bentonville's the county seat, I believe. But yeah, that's a really weird area. It's definitely hillbillies.
Seems like a pretty weird guy.
I'm not advocating for violence. I do not want war at all. And if the Civil War can be done without, I mean, a civil war, though, I guess I'm going to rephrase this then. Yeah, you might be right. Civil war means between us as people. Is that how you're defining it, or is it
a civil war would mean the deaths of untold amounts of people, millions most likely. So I mean, it would be between the people. The thing is, everybody casts like, well, my side of the civil war is the people, and the opposition side is the oppressive government. When what end up actually happening is your faction against the people who's on the other side of the faction. Because if you tried to do this revolution right now or whatever, most likely I'd be on the other side of that revolution. I just want to be 100% clear, right? So, and there would also be a ton of people who would also be on my side. So so this like painted like line just like of like the people versus the government isn't usually how it happens. It's the people versus more of the people on the other side. Like this, it's the same way like the Confederates saw it. Like they were the people against the oppressive U.S. government, when it really was them versus the other people who disagreed with their insurrection against the United States.
Okay. No, I mean, I don't want to fight you. I don't want to fight anybody on the left unless they try to harm me. I believe in self-defense only is the only form of violence there has to be. I mean, I'm not a type of guy that could get hit in the face and expect to just walk away. I'm not that guy. So I do understand violence occurs and am willing to fight back. I just don't want anyone like that fucking guy, wherever that guy was, that was whoever he was, that guy, fuck him, fuck the pipe bomb guy, fuck the far right, fuck the far right KKK white supremacist bullshit, fuck the far left bullshit. Don't burn down buildings, don't attack buildings, don't do any of that shit. I mean, which is it you want me to do? Because I've been saying this repeatedly.
Well, it's just for me, right? It's just hearing you say like, I hate violence, and I'm like, I also hate violence. Cool, but then you follow it up.
But we don't know how to get there without it.
Yeah,
that's
but then you follow it up
it.
with like, but if we gotta have a civil war, let's get it over with. It's like it's almost like, oh, I'm so I hate what we have to get done. It almost sounds like what you're saying.
No, you're talking to someone that's older, and I don't bullshit around, man. There's no time for bullshit. Talking is cheap at this point. We've talked and talked and talked, and everybody's on the left is upset, everybody on the right's upset, and we're at a point in time that I've never seen. The division is so fucking strong that I mean, it is deeper than I've ever felt or seen in my life. And I'm almost 50, so of course I feel like I'm probably the oldest on these panels. I should be the one that's able to give the most perspective, of at least from an anecdotal Andy perspective, that hey, this is really fucked up, people. This is bad. And I'm with you on this. I agree with you. I'm not some fucking loony that doesn't believe that this is a good thing. I hope Biden does well. I hope in 2 days I can come back on anybody's stream and tell you, yes, my president is Joe Biden. Because I've promised that from day one that whoever raises their hand on January 20th and sworn into office will be my fucking president. Obama was my president. Trump was my president. I voted for both. I voted for Bush before that. So I'll be clear about that one as well. I want Joe Biden and his administration to do the best they fucking can for our country as a whole. Is that fair enough too?
Yeah, that's fair.
But I will cut through the bullshit and get to the bottom line whenever it comes to issues like this. I do not want violence. I do not want to. But if I have to fight, I'm going to fight. That's where I'm at. If you tell me you want peace for me and you don't want to hurt me, then we're good. But if you tell me that civil war is going to break off and it has to happen and that's our only choice, then let's go.
But
and I'm ready to fight for my side.
That's not what I'm saying. It's just it feels.
That's
like
what I'm saying. But that's what I'm saying.
So, do you understand the context of the word? I understand the idea that the citizenry must always be ready to overthrow tyranny. I understand those principles, right?
Yes.
But with the context of the certain where the country is right now, with the prevalence of the 3%ers, with the violence on the streets, with a president who has said, when the looting starts, the shooting starts. Somebody who's called for the killing of civilians in the Middle East. We an extremely inflammatory president, I would say. The least anybody could say is he's inflammatory. With divisions at an all-time high, with the Capitol just recently going through basically what could be described as a siege by I don't know, like by these ragtag group of dunderheads, right? And like all of that is in the backdrop while you're saying, well, I don't like violence, but if we got to do it, we got to do it. It almost sounds like you're saying, like a lot of people thinking, like, well, it's inevitable, so let's just get the job done. That's what it sounds like, and I think that's why you need the if your intention really is, I don't want violence, and I feel like a better way to phrase what you're saying, RedNeq,
can you at least go to one of the tweets I've said this and read it in context?
If you give me a moment,
because it just feels weird that I'm sitting here arguing something I know every time I've tweeted it. Like, if this is what the Democrats want, then let's just get it over with. I remember that was one. And I think I also emphasized this before, the whole demon mama problem, because that's why she came into your panel that night, election night, and started ripping me a new asshole because she says I advocated. I was like, I said, if that's what y'all want, let's just get it over with. I mean, I've never backtracked off of what I say. I'll sit here and talk about it. See, can't wait, just a matter of time. Like, okay, can't wait, just a matter of time.
I wish I could find the tweet that it was in response to, because
that tweet was in response to someone saying civil war, and it was on the left. It was somebody saying that was my smart ass remark back to them. Yeah, okay, can't wait, just a matter of time.
So someone tweeted out civil war, and you retweeted it saying
they were on the left. They were on the left. They were on the left, basically jockeying their position, saying that we are. This is all they want. They're heading for a civil war, and so I did the typical. Yeah, fuck it, can't wait. Matter of time. Just the way we keep the way this is all going, it is a matter of time. And I think you're saying the same thing.
No, this can't keep going. But we don't solve this by just saying, well, if it's got to happen, it's got to happen. We solve it through structural reform and direct act. There's a lot of things we can do besides just like.
But why do you think that that's where we're heading, or why do you think what is your thought is that you're on the right side of this, and so is the right. They feel they're on the right side of this. Now, I mean, you're getting to the conversation. See, you let it in earlier by saying there's those that believe this way, and even if you don't. Even you acknowledge that we're in a very bad place, and the only way to fix this behavior that is coming is by fixing it now. So the left wants to identify all the people that supported Trump and call them insurrectionists and or terrorists. And they do want to change the behavior. They want to ostracize them. They want to cancel them if they've been loud espousers. There's a lot of different vehicles moving right now in legislature and coming out of representatives' mouths about what they want to do and how much they want to go against who believes in and how they believe.
Well,
for me, that's a civil war already.
So okay,
we're already in it.
One, I don't think when you say the left, you do acknowledge it's a very general term, right? When you say the left does this,
sure, and then you said just like the right, like the right's a very
the left. Term. I would say the vast majority of the left does not believe all Trump supporters are terrorists. I think the vast majority of the left do believe that if you siege the Capitol building, right, or did something of that sort, then you could say that those people were rioters at the very least. I will be consistent.
I am calling them rioters as well.
I will be consistent as I was before, as I told you before. I don't think Antifa are terrorists. I don't believe the Proud Boys are terrorists, and I don't believe the people who scuffled with police or even charged the Capitol building are terrorists. I do believe the people who planted the pipe bombs are terrorists. That's undoubtedly. I do believe the guy with the
I do believe the guy with the zip ties, if you can show intent, which that would be the hardest part to prove, would be considered a terrorist as well, because he did have them for a reason. Now, whether he was there, I mean, that's the whole point. We don't know. We can assume.
I mean, we can make us. I think we can make some pretty educated guesses, right? I don't think it's only.
I have been just as consistent. Mm-hmm. I considered it terrorism. But then I don't know if it was your panel or one of the other panels I was on, where they said to me, but the property is owned by the public. And so then it becomes, well, I still don't want BLM to tear it down. But if it is owned by us, then that means that both sides can do it.
Yeah, well, of course, the question always centers around, like, why did this occur, right? Because if I see a riot that occurred after a police shooting, I can make the arguments, well, I think this has to do with a lot of things. I think it has to do with abstract poverty that a lot of these communities facing, and they don't have anything to lash out at. They are facing like decades upon decades of police abuses and discrimination, and there's a lot of things building up. And and of course, the way to solve this isn't to burn down a Wendy's, but we got to really look at the root cause of what occurred here. And then I look at the Capitol, and I see, and my thing that lays out like why I think this occurred is conspiracy theories, inflammatory rhetoric, things that I think have a lot less justification behind it. Even if I don't think burning down a building is justified, it has a lot less, like, I think, grounding in reality.
I understand. And I think that there's a lot of reasons to take the grievance directly to your government from this side. right? I've argued this before. I think Antifa and them would be fine if they quit attacking privately owned businesses and stuck with federal buildings and their local buildings, like the police departments and things. Those are directly inherent to who's affecting their lives. They're those that are have authority over them. And that's where I look at this whole thing on the Capitol. This isn't the first time the Capitol's been marched or sieged on or rioted on or protested against. I mean, Jesus, it happened during the Kavanaugh hearings. It happened during oh, good God. Like I said, as early as 98, there was 2 cops shot there. This is,
and you said that was from the, what they called, the group Weather Underground?
The Weather Underground was in the 60s.
Yeah, but we do no, so that's different from what we're talking about then. Yeah.
Right. There's but the 98 was the closest, and that was just, I don't know why those 2 police officers were shot. I don't remember what the full sequence was, but I think it was 98.
Well, I mean,
and they were shot in the Capitol building.
Let's look it up. So then. That's 1998 Capitol police shot. Let's see why they were shot.
Actually, I think the Washington Post did a whole thing on recent.
Officer Jacob Chestnut and John Gibson were killed by Russell N. Jr. Was instantly killed. Weston's exact motives are unknown, but he had expressed a strong distrust of the federal government. Okay, so this is terrorism.
Yeah. So he didn't like his government either, but he took it right to the Capitol.
Yeah.
Right.
And but he was also diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia.
I got you. But again, the questions remain: how do you change your government without violence? How do you make them hear you? Because even Antifa, BLM, and others use
the thing is, when it comes to rioting, right? A lot of times, while of course it's not good, it a lot of times kicks nations into gear of like, oh shit, this problem has been so unattended for so long, I guess we should do something. But then it also has extremely negative consequences around it. It can be the destruction of a community. People can die, obviously, from what we saw at the Capitol. It can have some extremely negatives attached to it. Not to mention, it can also make your movement look absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible. So there's a lot of reasons why rioting isn't the solution, but it is something that's a huge red flag for governments. So it doesn't need to be the only thing that can spark a government into action. For example, people at the Capitol building who really thought like maybe us charging this will solve something, in reality really led to a kind of reversal of fortunes, because it made Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, and even Kelly Loeffler kind of jump the boat on a lot of the stuff that was going on to challenge the election. It was something like, for a lot of conservatives, they think maybe this is the final nail in the coffin for Trumpism. So when I think and discuss this, really when we see that, it seems that violence for the right in this instance made their situation worse when it comes to them as a party in the Republican Party. Right? So obviously we can't just like throwing violence at the situation didn't solve anything. And the violence is more of a symptom of a disease. So the question isn't, should we get violent? It's how do we solve that disease which caused the symptom, right? The symptom could be police brutality. The disease could be police brutality, could be poverty. But violence is a symptom of a disease.
Okay. And the disease can also, the violence is happening on all sides of arguments. And I don't hear an answer.
Is there violence on are there violence on both sides of the political spectrum? Yes. I think it is. When it comes to the United States, though, terror attacks are extremely disproportionate when it comes to the right, doing the vast majority of them in the United States. And
so is that why you brought me on to pin me with the right and violence?
No, I'm not. I asked you, I brought you on for this, but then you asked me a question and I'm answering your question. You asked me this question, right? So I'm trying to answer it to you honestly. I just want to be clear where we're at. And there's also the fact that I do think charging the bombs being planted and the charging of the Capitol and everything else is different. For example, the Weather Underground, disgusting organization. There's also been a lot of time that has happened between the Weather Underground and today. There's not a lot of activities from organizations like the Weather Underground carrying out those from the left. The vast majority, if you want me to be honest with you, seem to be from the right, far right groups. It could be Adam Waffen or it could be any other number of organizations. 3%.
So this is where we're heading. We're heading to the which is more violent, right or left.
No, but you
I got you.
You asked. The thing is,
no, I mean I think I have an answer for it though. I'll give you a good answer for it. I actually thought about this a lot.
You can, but let me just be clear, right? If somebody was to ask me about like, so Dylan, do you acknowledge that there was violence on both sides of and crimes on both sides of the, let's say, any conflict which was extremely brutal towards one group? Let's say World War II. There was violence from the French onto Germans and Germans onto the French. And I'd be like, yeah, there were probably war crimes committed on both sides, but I think one is a lot more disproportionate, right? So if someone is to bring that up, I just don't want to give any false notions to my audience that it's like 50-50 here, right? I don't. So when you ask me that question, I didn't want to give any false notice.
But I'm again, that's why I'm trying to check. Are you trying to pin me to supporting the far right behavior of violence? And
well, no, because you keep saying that isn't what you're doing. But I do think that you're like, well, if it's a civil war, let's get it over with. I do think that's bad wording of what you're.
I'm someone that believes in conservative views, and I'm considered to be on the right to you. I am also considered to believe in killing people for the name of something. I don't know if that's what you're saying. That's not what I'm saying. I serve my country. I've been disabled by my country, and I don't want anybody to go through what I've went through. And I damn sure don't like anybody being fucking hurt by their government at all. And I don't believe in violence against each other at all either. I want us to figure out a way to fix this without it. But when people tell me voting, that's how we fix it. We just fix it by voting. And yet we just watched an election go through a shitstorm. Whether you're on a Democrat or Republican side of this argument, it's still a shit show. It still is a shit show. You're not happy about it. You're not happy that the fact that that President Biden has got any kind of questions. It's a slam dunk for you. So you're dealing with the shit like, oh, fucking these idiots. Look, they support this guy that he lost clearly. Well, and on the other side, it's just the opposite. They believe that it was stolen.
It's not that simple for me, right? Because where this is all going down is my backyard, right? So these conspiracy theories, these ideas, they have consequences for the people I know and love. DC is where my mother was like a homeless resident, right? This is like, that shit's in my blood. That city's in my blood. So when I see this type of stuff happen in my city, to me, it's very personal. It's not like I could be taking a W victory lap about Biden right now, but I'm concerned about what's happening to my community.
So let me ask you this. In my community, state of Wisconsin, the Supreme Court acknowledged that votes were done illegally, over 200,000. Right. But their question was, how do they rectify the problem? Because they didn't want to disenfranchise those 200,000 plus people that voted illegally. The court came down and said that they sent it down to the lower court. The lower court said that they would go through the 200,000+ votes and find the if they were infirmed. I think it was called infirmed. Basically, people were claiming they were infirmed and unable to come vote or use the current voting mechanism. It was a 4-3 effort, and they still voted to just, move on. That's not what the law says in Wisconsin. That's not what that's not the Supreme Court. That's not the Supreme Court's job. It's the legislature's job. And the legislature allowed the Wisconsin Election Commission to just put in place some laws to allow those people to vote illegally. So my vote that I did legally was not counted comparative to these other people's vote.
Well, your vote was counted. It's just their votes were also counted.
But they were illegal, so they shouldn't have been counted. But that's a part of this system that I'm upset about, that the three branches have failed us.
Okay, can I read this article about this? Because this is completely new information.
Sure.
Okay. Wisconsin denies last...
I'll basically tell you what I believe happened, and if you find something else, you can let me know. But the Wisconsin, during the Supreme Court hearing, which I watched live, the judges asked both parties, the Biden lawyers and the Trump lawyers, who creates the laws in Wisconsin, the voting laws, and they both said the legislature, not the Wisconsin Election Commission. Since 2000. Yep, go ahead. Sorry.
The Wisconsin Supreme Court on Monday denied President Trump's attempt to invalidate more than 200,000 votes in the state's two biggest Democratic bastions for the second time this month. The ruling ends the president's effort to overturn the results of the election just hours before the Electoral College is set to cast its state's 10 votes for Joseph Biden. In a 4-3 decision, the conservative-leaning court... So this wasn't only like... So this wasn't a lib court. This was a conservative court. I do want to point that out.
It's a conservative court, and one of the Republicans went with the conservative on that. Yeah.
Okay. rejected the Trump's campaign's attempt to throw out the votes in Milwaukee and Dane County, which includes Madison. The campaign has asked the court to throw out votes cast by voters who declared themselves indefinitely confined, voters who delivered absentee ballots at October events hosted by the Madison City Clerk, voters who cast ballots at in-person early voting sites, and absentee ballots in which the voters witnessed did not provide a complete mailing address. We conclude the campaign is not entitled to the relief it seeks. Wrote Justice Brian Hagedorn, a conservative who sided with the court's 3 liberal justices. He added that the challenge to the indefinitely confined voter ballots is meritless on its face, and the other 3 categories of ballots challenged fail under the doctrine of laches, meaning that the campaign took too long to file the suit. The state Supreme Court had already rejected on December 3 an attempt by Trump to campaign to file the suit directly with it, so the campaign refiled the suit in lower courts in Milwaukee and Madison, and when those courts ruled against it, appealed to the Supreme Court, which heard the case. Monday's ruling snuffs out the faint legal hope Mr. Trump had of flipping Wisconsin from Mr. Biden, who won the state by 20,000 votes at a 3.2 million cast. In their dissent, 3 of the court's conservative justices argued the Trump campaign found troubling allegations of noncompliance with Wisconsin election laws by municipal clerks and the state election commission. The majority's failure to act leaves an indelible stain on our most recent election, just as Rebecca Bradley wrote. It will also profoundly and perhaps irreparably impact all local, statewide, and national elections going forward, gave consequence to the state of Wisconsin, significant harm to the rule of law. She added, the majority's failure to discharge its duty perpetrates violations of the law by those entrusted to administer it. The Trump lawsuit did not allege any fraud in the election. Instead, it argued that municipal clerks in Milwaukee County and Dane County should not have been allowed to complete address forms for witnesses to absentee ballots, which the Wisconsin Election Commission had given them permission to do. State law requires absentee voters to have witness sign their ballot envelopes.
Mm-hmm.
The suit did not seek to invalidate ballots cast anywhere else in the state, where voters are far more likely to have support Mr. Trump. So this suit was only done in areas.
Yeah, that's the bad part, right? So he didn't approach it with a good thought. He didn't approach it from this whole state perspective.
Well, yeah, because he just wanted to make it so he won the state, right?
And I'm not arguing that point. My point is I'm arguing the fact that just like that judge argued, in the hearing, they all agreed that since 2010, the Wisconsin Election Commission has allowed the governor and or themselves to mandate the voting law, how the vote is to occur. It's okay to issue guidelines, but it's not to issue law. And so they issued the guidance this year with the governor overriding the state law that's created by the legislature. And even the Supreme Court acknowledged that the law wasn't followed, but they still, because the way Trump brought it apart, said, fuck it, it's done. So myself, I'm upset that the law that the state legislature passed is not being followed, and the Supreme Court of the state did nothing to arbitrate or fix that. They didn't send it back to the legislator or didn't send it back down and say, hey, legislator, you need to fix this as if this is how you want it. For future problem. I mean, for the future. I'm not even talking about this one. I'm saying so that way we don't have this happen in the future.
None of this shows, though, that the majority of that state did not support Biden. For all intents and purposes, it seems that the majority of Wisconsin supported Biden. I don't know that
because
but there's no fraud, though. If there's no fraud, then these people did vote, and they voted within the guidelines given to them. Yeah, I know. I understand.
I live in the state, and majority of those ballots, those 200-something thousand, they even admitted, you read, didn't have signatures, or the local people would put the signatures on it for the location. I mean, it's just.
But there's no evidence of fraud. This article,
the fraud is the fact that the votes were taken. That's against
the Trump lawsuit didn't even allege any fraud in the election, though. There was no fraud. You're reading it. I'm reading it right now.
Hang on, Dylan. The fraud is the fact that the people voted illegally. It was against the Wisconsin's legislative constitutional law that is there. The legislators wrote a law. In 2010, the Wisconsin Election Commission has been operating this way. It goes against what the legislature has written into law. That's even what the Supreme Court justice up there told you.
But the problem here is the Election Commission gave them permission, right?
Sure.
So, and there's no allegations of fraud, so these people voted in this manner, including people who were contained in their house due to the coronavirus pandemic, older individuals who couldn't leave their house because if they left and got COVID.
They claim that, one of the representatives of the state took a picture and saying that she was infirmed.
Well, okay, still, from all intents and purposes, it looks like out of everybody who voted, whether you want to, there's no evidence of fraud, so these people intended and use the guidelines given to them by the election commission to vote in this manner. Then this case is brought about in only these 2 counties, which leaned for Democrats. So Trump was doing this to overturn the election, not to actually make sure every legal vote was counted. And also, it was way too late. This seems like this ruling seems completely appropriate, because if they were to overturn it, there wouldn't have been enough time for everybody to even re-vote.
Okay. That still doesn't negate the fact that the law was passed. I mean, there was no law passed for them to change the voting procedure. And they still haven't. And as a citizen, again, that goes to my arguments. How do I, as a citizen, get my government to do the things that they're supposed to do based off that they have written on the books without seeing what we've seen?
See, the thing is, if you want to make sure that this doesn't happen again, okay, cool. But due to the late filing of this lawsuit, due to the election commission giving these people permission, and there being no evidence of fraud, there's nothing the court really could have done here. It was conservative.
If you vote illegally, is that not fraud?
If the election commission tells me to vote in a certain way and I go and vote in that way, no, that is not fraud. Fraud is different.
So this
article is even saying
committing the.
No, this article even itself said that, like, the Trump campaign didn't even allege fraud in the lawsuit. There's no the Trump lawsuit did not allege any fraud in the Wisconsin election. As far as I know,
they wanted the ballots thrown out from a process standpoint. That's why they did that.
Yeah, that's So there was no fraud in the Wisconsin election, and from all I know, there's been really no. I believe the Trump campaign team has the Trump legal team for the Trump campaign has been asked multiple times in multiple cases if they have evidence of fraud, and every time they say, "Well, no."
So if the election commission didn't follow the law, they're the ones that are responsible for committing this failure. And the latches were the how to fix the problem, and that was the time frame that you even said they didn't have enough time to redo it. That still doesn't negate the fact that the Wisconsin Election Commission overstepped their actual authority and created it without it being given to them by the legislature. Only the legislature can create the laws that the state uses for elections, not the WEC. Is that not the fact?
Maybe. Why did no court overthrow this? Why did every single court rule against them? Most of them conservative.
This court sent it down. So the other article probably links you to the other court where they sent it down to a judge for him to look at and have them validate whether or not they ordered them to go through the whole 200,000 ballots and try to validate whether or not they were infirmed or not. The people were infirmed to validate their vote, check their vote. I guess it would be damn, my wife had to do hers too because her registration was jacked up. It's whenever you get called, the county called and said, "Hey, your registration paperwork's not right," because she's a dual resident. She lives in Texas most of the time, but this year she's been up here because of COVID. So she registered up here to vote this year, and so she had to come in and do something. I forget there's a term they use for it, but she had to go back in and sign and prove that it was her. That was the opportunity that should have been done. But they didn't. And I haven't heard anything from my local state about how they're going to move forward. And these are procedural issues, right? These are all procedural things. And it's a fucking mess.
Yeah, but none of this is a reason to overturn an election and it's also not evidence of widespread fraud. So it isn't evidence that people's votes were changed at all. All these people intended to vote this way, and they voted as the election commission told them, as most reasonable people would. If the election commission told me to vote in a certain way, I'd probably listen to the election commission. I mean, it has election in the name, right? So I don't see, like, overturning this would be pointless from a democratic standpoint. If anything, it would be giving a state to somebody in an election who the vast majority of voters didn't want it to go to.
Okay.
Right? Am I right?
I don't see it. I see it as a law not being followed. I see it that simple. The Wisconsin Election Commission is actually doing something because this is a representation of exactly the larger picture. And that's, I think, the justice that you read her comment about how this will affect United States as well in future. It's where the legislature did not pass the law, and yet something was created for them to just do, a guideline. guidelines are not laws. Guidelines are just assumptions, and that you stay within the confinement of this. That's not how our United States operates. And that's where my contentions lie. It's like I feel like I feel like our United States as a whole is in the same situation. They're able to just say, fuck it. We have a commission that's changing this.
Wisconsin law requires voters to show photo identification when requesting an absentee ballot. However, a voter is not required to show photo identification if the voter indicates he or she is indefinitely defined because of age, physical illness, or infirmity, or is disabled for an indefinite period. The Trump campaign wanted all ballots claiming the confined status in Dane and Milwaukee, right, again, just the Democratic counties. But the majority rejected this blatant invalidation, which would have invalidated 28,000 votes. The campaign's request to strike down the confined votes in Dane and Milwaukee as a class without regard to whether any individual voter was in fact indefinitely confined has no basis in reason or law. It is not wholly without merit. Who was elected to Supreme Court, in 2019. So it seems like it's not even just those that they wanted to strike down anybody who in these two counties, Democratic, said we can't go outside, which doesn't even like what you're complaining about, because this was already state law that they can do this.
It's okay. The Wisconsin Election Commission in 2010 passed that. I believe it was 2010 that was the statute that the guidelines. I'm sorry, right there. There it goes. They're going to talk about it right there.
Yeah, this Wisconsin state law right there.
No, down.
Okay.
Latches, bars, other challenges.
Challenges to the other three category ballots fail under the long-standing and well-settled doctrine of latches. Latches is an equitable remedy that bars claims that produced a party because they were not raised sooner. Okay, so for the first category of votes, it's already covered by Wisconsin state law, and Trump has no reason to reject those 28,000, right? Okay, but for the other votes, Trump's legal team
the state law that's been passed, right?
The state law was passed to allow these people to vote from a confined area. Yes. That's what we're talking about, that law. Yes, and it seems that those people, that the 28,000 that they wanted to invalidate, this was a blanket invalidation of all the people who voted using that method in that county, in these two counties.
Correct.
Which would have been
it ties around COVID. It ties around COVID because they did go out and accept early votes, mail-in votes, drop box dumps, and all with the infirmed title or people claiming it. And that's where they're saying that the methods used. Now, Trump's didn't. I've went past the Trump thing. I'm actually, as a citizen of the state, wanting to know how in the fuck, because I didn't like the fact that Trump only went after those two counties. He should have done this statewide, because then it just looks fucking racist.
If he would have done it statewide, then most likely he would have found like, oh shit, I don't win, because then would have meant Republican votes would have been invalidated as well.
I actually think a lot of Republicans lost in this vote.
Aren't these two counties extremely Democratic? And he chose specifically the two Democratic counties that were part of the reason that got us to vote. So if he would have invalidated those 28,000, that would have been 8,000 more than needed to flip the state. So he's specifically choosing these two so he could get to 10 electoral votes.
Flip the state.
Yes. The whole point he did this wasn't to make sure every legal vote was counted. It was to basically flip the state, no matter if everybody has a legal vote counted.
And my argument is I wanted it for all.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay,
that's where I'm at.
But then the thing is, part of the lawsuit was also invalidating the 28,000, regardless of whether their claims of being incapacitated and not being able to leave their home was legitimate or not. Which,
because they was under the auspices of COVID.
Well, it wasn't just under the auspices of COVID. It was the auspices of just being unable to leave your home. As far as it doesn't say specifically here, meaning that if, let's say, like for example, you're a disabled veteran, let's say your disability was your inability to move out of your house into one of these locations, or you had a severe lung thing where you couldn't go out there, you saying, well, I'm going to use this one method to vote because if I go in person, it would be hard for me to transport myself, so I'm going to use this method, which makes it a lot easier, which already falls under Wisconsin state law. He wants to invalidate that. This is actually something that could have hurt specifically.
That's why I fucking focused on it, because it directly. I was never even told about this. I never knew this was an option.
Isn't that cool that it is though?
Yes, it is, but it needs to be law. And
it is law. It's Wisconsin state law,
brother.
Votes.
they attached COVID to it. The state average of infirmed infirmed votes that's happened is 58,000 people. It's 50 to 60,000 people every time there's a vote.
The thing is here, though, this invalidation isn't just we want to invalidate the people who said it because of COVID. They want to invalidate all of it, right? So let's say you're a disabled veteran who lost your ability to transport yourself in a conflict somewhere. And you voted in Dane County. If this lawsuit would have succeeded, your vote would have been invalidated. Not because of COVID, but because you were unable to transport yourself out of there.
Okay, again, I'm using the example and I'm asking the questions and I'm with you. I do not want their votes invalidated either. I want more votes. I want more people voting. But I want it to follow the fucking law. And they used a COVID pitch that didn't get passed. They tied it to this, and that's not what the law is written as. The law is written as indefinitely confined because of age, indefinitely, not part-time confined, not, I just feel sick because I don't want to get cold, confined, indefinitely. It's in the verbiage up top. You can reread it perfectly clear. I mean, it's the law is the law.
We've gone back and forth on this exact point for a while now, but then if you read the rest of this article, it also says that the Trump campaign argued that voters were allowed to cast absentee ballots without making an official written application. But the majority noted that both counties disseminated an absentee ballot application form created and approved by the Wisconsin Election Commission in 2010.
Created and approved by the WEC, not by the legislature. So all of this has been mandated since 2010 by the WEC, and the legislature has had no involvement at all.
Why wouldn't Trump?
What the SCOTUS was talking about.
The thing that gets me though, why would they do this and make all these challenges after the election and not before the election?
Because they lost. Because they lost. Of course, it's fucking stupid that they didn't.
So you acknowledge that he's not doing this to make sure every legal vote was counted, but just so he can win.
I said that earlier. I said I'm not fucking advocating what he wanted. He should have asked for the whole state. He should have not asked just for those two counties. I also said that I don't care about what the fuck happened. I don't care if this is a Joe Biden or a Trump win. I just want to know that my shit counted correctly.
Well, you should.
This is my point right here. This is exactly the point I was making, Dylan. The WEC is sitting here making guidelines that they believe are official, but it isn't. It isn't. It's not legit. And this is a problem.
This is something you can confront going into the next election, but this really has no... This really will have no and shouldn't have any impact on whether we disregard any votes in this election. It's too late and it wouldn't make any sense.
I just want it fixed.
Okay.
And I'm asking the questions again. So whenever I bring up shit, it's funny, man. You want facts? Okay, I'm showing you. The Wisconsin Election Commission has been doing it this way since 2010. It was even asked that in person in the live hearing. I listened to both sides ask the same questions, and they acknowledged the law is written by the legislator, right? We all know this. Mm-hmm. You know this. I know how it works. And I haven't seen anything from this to move forward.
Actually, there was something similar like this in Texas where a county government basically set up mobile voting booths for people who wanted to vote through their car because they were unable to get out because of COVID. And they wanted to throw out 200,000 votes in Texas because of that, which would have obviously been absolutely horrible. And of course, it was a mostly Democratic county. So I will say that this is something that's, and I understand your concerns, right? And if you want to go forward and make sure, because you would like if this law was passed by the Wisconsin legislature, wouldn't you? Right? This is a good law, right? So the next 2 years, maybe
the law as it's written it says indefinitely confined.
Yes,
it needs to be clear. They can't just allow a sickness or if I choose that I'm indefinitely, either I'm completely confined or I'm not. Well, there has to be some. They need to put something in.
Well, the thing is, right? If indefinitely confined, I mean, they do clarify. They do say illness and disability. They do define it.
Indefinitely, though. They do it as indefinitely, and COVID-19 is not an indefinite. So that is a problem, man.
But the thing is, okay. Well, I think we've gone back and forth on this for a while. There's no reason to keep going back and forth on this specific point.
In 2 days, or less than 2 days, you can ask me who my president is, and you will hear the words Joe Biden coming out of my mouth. I am not a I'm not out here wanting to kill nobody. I don't want anybody to get hurt. I don't want anybody dead. And I hope everybody is healthy.
I'm gonna say Howie Hawkins.
What is that?
He was the Green candidate. Joe Jorgensen, that's the other one, yeah.
Joe Jorgensen, yeah, she was a fuck off.
I honestly wanted Vermin Supreme to get it. It would have been so cool.
I mean, is there ever going to be a possibility for a third or fourth or some other party besides the two-party system here?
I mean, there might be if there's a complete collapse, but like it's very. I don't think the thing is. I think the development of a third party is so far off and so in the distance at this point with the current political structure that organizing within the current party structure is the most effective way to go. It's the best way to have the biggest impact on actual policy and national, state, and local politics.
Okay. Have I answered your questions satisfactorily?
Yeah, I think you've answered all my questions. It was originally about one tweet, but then it kind of spiraled out in there, ain't it?
Well, I mean, I want to make sure I'm there to answer whatever you want.
Why? I appreciate you. I appreciate you answering my questions.
Are we clear? Do I need to restate it? Anything else to make sure that everybody understands where I'm at? Is there anything else I'm not unclear about? I don't want violence. Yes.
Yes.
I believe in civil war if it has to come down to it, but I don't want it.
Do you think you can? I think you should. I still think that's a bad way to state it, man. I don't think that's a good way to state it. I think you should be
nothing I state is right. Nothing the way I say it is right. Well, we know that. We gotta figure this out.
The thing is with our current environment, that type of rhetoric is pretty yikes, man. I mean, when we think about the 3%ers walking around right now. I mean, Dylan, don't you think
who are the 3%? What the fuck is that?
They're a militia movement.
What do you mean?
They're they're a militia. They're basically the tree of liberty must be like watered by the blood of tyrants type people. Really? Yeah. I keep getting somebody spamming something in my chat. It's a question to you. Can I ask you about it?
It's your stage.
Okay. You just keep spamming it, so this is just so I'll stop spamming it. Designation of indefinity. How do you say it? Indefinitely. Confined status is for each individual voter to make based upon their current circumstances. It does not require permanent or total inability to travel outside of their residence. The designation is appropriate for electors who are indefinitely confined because of age, physical illness, or infirmity or are disabled for an indefinite period.
And that would mean
what they're saying is that somebody's age stopping them from going out because of COVID would be a reason to not go out.
It does say age in the law. Age would be one thing. That's what I'm saying. The judge there was a judge. I've been trying to find this article because it was local news, but they were saying that the judge was supposed to. He ordered the either the commission or somebody to go through and validate whether or not the people that voted were actually indefinitely confined, because the average of indefinitely confined people in the state are 58 to 60 something thousand. Mm-hmm. So of course there was 4 times, almost 5 times the amount of that voted in that way, in that fashion. The fact that Trump only focused on those 2 counties, it's fucking stupid. That was bullshit. My contest or my contentions are that I watched the hearing live, and I was very frustrated hearing the judges say, well, the law, who writes the laws, and acknowledge it, but then don't follow it. And that's just where I'm at. And maybe it's the fact that I'm on political with you, and I've been talking about politics more, that I'm more in tune to paying attention to the nuances. But that frustrated me. It frustrated the hell out of me. And I would definitely like to see something change before I die. So y'all need to get busy.
I would like to see something change before I die too.
Well, you guys really better get busy, because you're just, about 30 years younger than me. So your life is still full ahead of you. You still got
I'll give you a chicken tax credit. That satisfy you?
Brother, if you could just give me any kind of tax credit, I'll take it. Any tax credits, I'm always willing to take.
Okay, buddy. Oh, did you hear about Biden's new proposed tax credit?
No.
It's an increased tax credit for basically families with children. Basically, you get increased tax credit for each child you have. It's part of his COVID relief.
Okay.
Pretty cool, right?
Okay. It is. It is. It is. It is,
Oh.
brother. I appreciate your time, Dylan. Thank you very much for offering me a chance to speak.
No problem.